79 on his birthday, he was just really sad, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was just really not him. And finally, at some point during the day, he said, "Honey, my daddy died when he was 79, and I'm 79 today, and I kind of figure I had my last birthday today." And what he didn't know, though, is that he was going to be here and be healthy for another 9 years. And so what felt like to him the end of the line, because even as an adult, it's really hard to see yourself being older than your parents were at their oldest age. It was very difficult for him to think through that. But he was here and healthy, again, for over 9 years after that. So you don't know, but do pay attention to, what is your health telling you? What does that really look like? It is a valid consideration, but it's definitely not the only one. And Scott, we don't want to make this decision in a vacuum.
Right, and planning is certainly the driver of all this. You want to create an overall plan and not make a Social Security decision in a vacuum. But we also recognize that planning is not guaranteed, right? Nothing is guaranteed. So to Janet's point, I say in a client meeting room oftentimes, if you give me your date of death, we can build the perfect retirement plan, right? Nobody knows that. It is better, even if you have health concerns, I think, to some degree, Chet, it is better to plan for a long life and not get it rather than not plan for a long life and get it. So what are some of the things you really should be considering as you begin to piece together your overall retirement plan and make a Social Security decision? So number one, first thing you have to think about is Chet tells us he's 59, so he's not eligible to take a Social Security benefit unless he's eligible for Social Security disability. So 62, as Janet has already referenced, is the earliest that you can take a benefit. However, if you're still working, Chet, that's not going to be a good idea. So you could cost yourself. So in 2025, if your earnings exceeded $23,400, your benefit would be reduced $1 for every $2 you earn above that limit. And that continues. We say that a lot on the show and then kind of stop it right there, but that continues every year until the year you reach full retirement age.
Well, and let me underscore full retirement age, because I have a friend that he kept getting in his mind that at 65 that would change. And it was not at 65. For him, it was at 67. It is your full retirement age, not when you're eligible for Medicare. Yes, Medicare still can kick in at 65, but this has nothing to do with that timeline. It is absolutely related to your full retirement age.
So you don't want to take that Social Security early, even because of health reasons, if you are still working, Chet. The other thing you don't tell us here, do you have a spouse? Because taking Social Security early could reduce her benefit. Now, not her actual benefit, right? But let's explain. If your spouse doesn't have a long work history and doesn't thereby have a large Social Security benefit, at least in comparison to yours, she could actually choose to take a spousal benefit. In other words, take a piece of yours, and that would result in about half of your benefit. But if you claim benefits early, your benefit is reduced, and so would the spousal benefit be reduced. So that's a consideration, and to our point of don't make the decision in a vacuum.
In a vacuum, yeah. And let's talk about that spousal benefit for just a moment, because a lot of times we have a stay-at-home spouse, for a number of years when the kids are little, and I don't think a lot of people realize that it's not just that there are missing years of income. Those years don't get left out of the calculation. They actually get entered into the calculation as zeros. And so it can really draw down. I think about, when we were in school, if we made a zero on one thing, man, the A's that we made didn't really matter, because
it
got pulled down so much in the average. And the same thing happens here. So that spousal benefit may be very important in the overall calculation.
And staying with the theme here of if you're married, Chet, when one spouse dies, the larger of the two benefits is what continues for the survivor. So that needs to be part of your Social Security analysis and decision making as well, as do you want to delay at least one of the benefits so it can get as large as it possibly can, maybe waiting until age 70 before you begin to pull it, because that's the one that the surviving spouse is going to continue to get. But now here's a big question, getting off of the actual Social Security benefit decision making, or at least as it relates to your options from Social Security. What other assets do you have? You know, I think that's a big thing. If you retire at age 62 and you don't have a lot of supporting assets, you're probably going to want to get that benefit started as early as possible, because you can get some floor of income there that you're not going to have to take as much from your assets, thereby potentially putting stress on it to continue for the rest of your life. On the other side, if you've saved a lot, if you're up around $2-3 million, right, you've got assets to be able to withstand taking withdrawals for a few years, couple years, however many you end up deciding on, to let that Social Security benefit grow.
And there's a flip side of that, even, that maybe you're in the middle, that you have enough income or enough assets, but you don't have like an excess amount. You may want to preserve those assets for the surviving spouse and still go ahead and take Social Security, even though you have the assets to create the income right now. The surviving spouse may need it. And I think there's also a question of a long-term care potential need. If you might need to pay for your care, whether in home or in a facility of some type, then you may need to turn on Social Security to supplement your income from your investments in order to pay for that care. Chet, I don't know if you would qualify for coverage right now based on your health, since we don't really know what the situation is there, but I would encourage you to make an intentional decision about long-term care, because if you are still eligible, you're at a good age. We like to get age 55 to age 60 is kind of ideal. Not that we won't look at it for people outside of that age range. We absolutely will, but that's kind of the ideal price range, for looking at this. So if you have not made an intentional decision about your long-term care potential needs in the future, I would encourage you to do that sooner rather than later.
And the final piece to kind of consider here along those health lines is Social Security disability an option. Could that happen for you as well? We don't know, again, all the details of your health. Or do you have disability insurance through your employer that, if eligible, that could help you pay for expenses? And I think that's really, I want to throw that out there more for other people listening as well, because I'm sure Chet's probably considered that, and he either knows if he does or he doesn't have that option to kick in to help you delay your Social Security benefit. But if you don't have disability insurance, if you're listening right now and you're getting into that same age band as Chet and you're still working, that's a big feather in the cap to have long-term disability, for sure.
Yes.
And all those insurance considerations are big when it comes to planning as well. And finally, just to wrap this up, Chet, hope is not a plan. I that caught my eye when he said wait and hope for the best. We don't want that to be your strategy. We don't want that to be anyone's strategy. We would recommend sitting down with a financial advisor and create a financial plan, a written financial plan that takes into consideration your health situation, but also takes into consideration all of those other factors that we talked about while we were answering your question. Hey, we want to remind you before we get into our next question here on the Get Ready for the Future show about an upcoming event we have, the Built to Endure Business Owner Summit. It's coming up Saturday, October 4th at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock, and we're really excited to announce that we have keynote speaker Houston Nutt coming in. Former Razorback head coach Houston Nutt is going to sit down and do a Q&A. I'm going to have the pleasure of talking with him. He's going to talk about all the elements that he experienced as a head football coach that certainly, Janet, relate to a business owner.
Absolutely. I have heard that he's already had a call with our team, and he's pretty excited about coming and doing all of this. And I am certain, since it's Houston Nutt, it's going to be special.
Yes, it will be.
It's going to be special.
Yeah. So you'll want to get signed up for that. If you want to sign up, just go to getreadyforthefuture.com/endure. This is for all business owners. And Janet, I know you're excited about it. Being a business owner, providing some good education and some resources and some direction for helping business owners.
Well, I'll say I like to be around people, and I think everybody's wired this way. I like to be around people who are facing the same challenges and overcoming them as what I am. And maybe they're ahead of me in some areas, and I can learn from